Can I give a word of context about this? Why we end up with this little bit self-referential talk? This is the fifth year that ItaCa exists as a group project, as a wonderful experience that we
As
have
an
been building
enterprise.
together. Yeah, as an enterprise. So we thought, with the organizing committee thought that it was nice to end up the 2024 edition with a little bit of, indeed, discussion about what ItaCa has become in all these years. So Ivan kindly offered to give an overview. Let's see what he has to say.
Hello, everyone. So, of course, Fosco already said something I was planning to say. So, thank you, Fosco, for stealing portions of my talk. Um, it's nice to have you here. I hope you will enjoy this talk, and there will be no mathematics at all. So, if someone came to see me talking about mathematics, this is not the right day. So, let's start. So the plan for today is to see a bit of history, numbers, and comments about what is happening in ItaCa and what is ItaCa. And then I would like to raise the question, what are we currently? And of course, very importantly, where do we want to go? I will make a number of comments about this. And of course, there will be open mic at the end so that we can um, disagree on what I say. Okay. So let's start with history and numbers. So the first thing is to talk a tiny bit about the genesis of ItaCa. And there is one person that needs to be mentioned, and that is Beppe Mettere, who suggested the importance of creating something like ItaCa in summer 2019. And this is a picture of Beppe Mettere, and I think this is a great chance to say something about him. I'm happy he's not here, so this is less awkward. Um, Beppe finally landed in Milan. Now he's permanently in Milano, as he always wanted to. And most importantly now, maybe less importantly now, is also an editor of TAC. So he's a very important member of the category theory community. And we are very happy for his recent successes, both in personal life and in professional life. And I think this is one of the things that ItaCa has to be a place to cheer the successes of its members. So I would like to start this talk with saying thank you, Beppe, for generating us, but also congratulations for the recent successes that you had. And so, as I was saying, ItaCa was born um, in order to achieve some goals, and I would like to discuss which goals moved the origins of ItaCa. And the first one was to increase the visibility of category theory in the Italian mathematical discourse. So Italy is a country where structural mathematics did not have the success that others might think it had. Of course, Bill Lovier was very eradicated in Italy at some point, and there was a lot of interaction between the Italian community of category theory and the rest of the category theory communities. But if you're Italian and you're interested in category theory, you know that besides its community, nobody talks about category theory. And actually, it's a topic that nobody likes in a way. And so Beppe thought that a way to increase the visibility of category theory and a way to popularize the subject to other departments where the subject is less discussed was to create a community that would acknowledge that there are Italians doing category theory and there is category theory done by Italians, despite they are not very visible in the country. There was more than that. There was the idea of offering a network for Italians that are scattered all around the world. And this is something that every category theorist is very aware of. It's absolutely full of Italians everywhere. And these Italians talk to each other because Italians talk a lot. And so Ithaca was a stage where this communication could happen, possibly efficiently. And then another reason for ItaCa to emerge was to support the career of young researchers and help them find a place, a permanent place to stay, possibly in Italy if they wanted to go back. And this is the reason why our name is ItaCa. And there is the reference to the Greek mythology. So it was a chance to go back, but also as a general statement, and this is very connected to point number two about networking, just to find positions inside the category theory community. And last, and maybe most importantly, of course, we are social monkeys, and so the most important point was to make friends. It was just a piece of semiotics, just a name, a label that could allow people to talk to each other under a certain kind of totem, which in this case was being Italian and being a category theorist. So these were the reasons why we were born. And during this talk, we will discuss whether we have succeeded in any of these points, or maybe we haven't succeeded in any of these points. So the first question is, how did we do any of the things that we did? And the first thing we should talk about are the ItaCa workshops. So ItaCa workshops are physical events, and we had quite a number of them now. We had 5 of them in different years, and they have been, in my opinion, extremely successful in ways that we were not expecting. So we had one in Milano, one in Genova, one in Pisa, one in Torino, and one in Padova this year. And if we look at the number of participants, which is the number that you see on the right column, we are always around 50 participants, quite stably. And this is a very great achievement because it is above the average size of a PSSL. And it is, of course, it's much less of a CT, but it is still half of a CT or a third of a CT. So this really shows that the community is vibing and takes the opportunity to gather as much as possible. More importantly, at the ItaCa workshops, there is quite a number of non-Italian speakers. Some of them are here in the audience today. Hello, Igor. And I think for the moment, the ItaCa workshops have been really an enormous success that I was not expecting when we started, and nobody was expecting when we started. So this year we will be in Padova. Unfortunately, I will not be there. Really, I'm very sorry for that. But you should go. And next year, we don't know where we will be. This is something that will be discussed in Padova by the people that are there. And of course, maybe I even know, and I don't want to spoil it to you. It's also a good question how many people there will be in Padova this year. And this is also an information that is not available yet, especially because I hope to convince some of you to go so that the number will change. But anyhow, I think this number, this 50, is really a great evidence that the community exists and that it gathers all the time. And I hope in the next years there will be other events. We have one per year, and it is a first question to wonder whether we want to gather more than once per year. This is a question that could be raised, and I would say we definitely want to gather at least one per year, but I think that will not change, and there is no risk that that will stop happening. So I included a couple of pictures. This is one in Genova, I think, I'm quite sure, and then no, sorry, this is not in Genova. I think this is in uh, um. I'm not sure if this is in Genova or
It's Genova, Ivan.
oh,
It's
thank you,
Villa
thank you.
Cambiaso.
Thank you, Jacopo. Yes, this is in Genova, and then this one is a dinner, more recent. I think this is Turin, and we can see some of the most important people of Ithaca, including Beppe, but I mean many other people in this picture. So this is the first event that is extremely important in our community, the workshop. But the other important event that we run is the fest, which is where we are today. In a way, the fest is also my favorite event because it's the one that forces everyone to gather monthly, and so it's just a way to see each other's face as often as possible, which, in my opinion, is extremely important in generating a community and maintaining it. And we had more than 50 talks until now, and we are at the fifth edition of the fest. The current scientific committee is the one below, Coraglia di Liberti, Loregian, Metere, and Perrone. And who knows what's going to happen to this committee in the near future? Maybe something will change. And we try to represent every topic of inside category theory, from logic to homotopy theory to applied category theory, and so on. Of course, formal category theory, general category theory, categorical algebra, and I hope I'm mentioning as many things as possible. But so I think also the fest is a success, in my opinion. I will talk about failures soon, don't worry. I think also the fest is a great success, and I hope we will keep going in this direction. Personally, I am quite satisfied with the quality of the fest and also with the way it's going. And your presence today is a great example of that. We have always between 20 and 40 people that are present at the fest. And I think this is personally, I think it's a good number. I wouldn't aim for higher number. It's not reasonable. And this is higher than many online seminars nowadays. So I think this is another sign that we are very much alive and we manage to stay together. This is another picture from a previous fest. I'm always there. There is Paolo. There is Gabriele. But as you can see in this picture, there is also Joshua Wrigley. And that I don't have so many pictures, so I had to choose this picture. But I hope this picture proves that we have a quite international community that is coming around ItaCa, and we have so many international speakers. And so in this sense, I think our community is recognized and acknowledged at international level and also respected. People do show up to check out the talks that we prepare. So let's talk a tiny bit about leadership and the people that guide this project. So the current board is Di Liberti, Emmenegger, Loregian, and Metere. And as you can see, there is also Lanari in this list. And I want to talk about a tiny bit about this topic because it's a very important one. So in the original board, there was Edoardo Lanari. And Eduardo Lanari, like me and Fosco, is a very young researcher that at some point has left mathematics, and recently Jacopo has joined the board. We're super happy with Jacopo, and this is all great, but we did lose a very important person in the history of ItaCa. Eduardo was with us at the very beginning, and he was a very important member. And we don't spend much time about talking to talk about all the people that leave us and how much this drains the potential of things like ItaCa. Every year, very bright researchers have to leave academia because there aren't many positions, and this is absolutely a tragedy, and it's a tragedy we don't comment enough. And ItaCa was born in order to mitigate and medicate this problem. And with Eduardo, we have failed. And that's very important to acknowledge that. And by failing, not only we have this is bad for Eduardo because he will not do research in mathematics anymore, but it's even more, it's terrible for us because he was one of the best of us. And yeah, I wanted to mention this. But anyway, now Jacopo has joined, and I think for the moment that we are very happy. Everything is functioning in the board for the moment. But also, it's important to have a board mostly to know who to blame for our failures. And so later in this presentation, I will talk about the failures of ItaCa, and these four people are the people that we should blame for whatever we were not successful in reaching. So concerning outreach, we have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has 113 videos, 500 subscribers, and 22,000 views, which is especially the number of views is a quite decent number for the kind of things we do. We have also a Twitter account, and we have a website, which is of course our main interface. And the way the people that manage these things are Capucci and Lobbia and Loregiana and Dagnino for the website. I want to thank all the people that I'm mentioning because these are the people that make ItaCa possible. And Another thing that we have done is the course in category theory, and the course has 27 videos, most of them of 2 hours long. And so this is a resource in Italian that all the students of Italy can check in order to learn category theory with us. This was a great success of outreach, in my opinion. It has there are 2,300 views for the first lecture and 100 views for the I wrote worst lecture just because I needed to be synthetic there, but it just means the lecture that has the least views. And if you're curious, it's the lecture about monads by Beppe. So this is a great failure of Beppe, if you want. But anyway, I mean, this is a quite impressive number of views considering the topic, and the people that have put together this course were Fosco, Jacopo, Giorgi Perroni, and Guffanti, and then Metere Palombi and Coraglia. So these are I would say the main three things that we keep doing. That the course is there at this point, and then we have the fest, and then we have the physical event. But there have been many other activities that we have been trying to do. So one of them has been an activity where young people contact us, and then we help them in reading papers. And then after they read these papers, they write something to show that they have learned something. And this project didn't work very well. It was called the Folk Ensemble, and it worked perfectly for Fosco because even some science emerged from it, some publications did emerge from it. But as a general statement, the project didn't manage to stay in place, and it didn't have a lot of attention. And we would like to transform that project soon in a mentorship program. And we have in mind other types of events. We had in mind events about the history of category theory in Italy. Sorry. And other types of events that haven't happened or are still in the progress of being organized, and that I haven't presented because I wanted to concentrate on the main things that we have done. But as a general statement, we try to do as much as possible in order to increase our outreach and be present at international level. And the course, in my opinion, was a good way to produce something that is there and that is accessible for other people. So let's talk a tiny bit about the successes of ItaCa. So I think that the greatest success of ItaCa is that we have created a lively community, and all the previous slices are an evidence of what I'm saying. This very meeting of today is an evidence of what I'm saying. And in this sense, I'm not afraid of of the health of ItaCa. I think ItaCa will thrive and it will still exist in the near future. I don't know about the farther future, of course, but it's definitely in the near future And there is still a lot of energy in all the participants to all the events. We never had problems in finding the place for a new workshop. And so, in this sense, I think um, we managed to make a statement that there are Italians doing category theory, they do love each other, and they are happy to gather and to bring their international friends when they gather. There are things that we succeeded only so and so. And the first one is to, I would say, promote research synergy in the community. So when I say that, I mean that there hasn't been generation of new trends and topics out of our meetings. Of course, everyone brings their research. This is absolutely true. And everyone presents what they are working on, but there isn't a new wave of topics that has emerged from our meetings. I'm not even saying this should happen, but to some extent, one would expect this kind of phenomena to happen when you put together people. And I would say it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will happen in the future, maybe not. Uh, on a smaller scale, not so many projects have emerged from our meetings. Some have, and some collaborations have started. This is definitely true. But one cannot say that there has been a proliferation of papers that emerged out of ItaCa. And I would say I'm not even claiming that there should be a proliferation of papers that has emerged out of ItaCa. But I think there is a sign of the fact that the community for the moment is an occasion to meet. It's not an occasion to do science yet. And this is something we could invest on. We could wonder, how can we make sure that people actually work together during this meeting and do something new together? And we could think of new formats to encourage this kind of events, or maybe not. Whatever I talk about is something that we can discuss, and we can wonder, is this what we want ItaCa to be also or not? And I think these are good questions to raise. And then we should talk also about what we failed at. And we did fail when it comes to support careers of young researchers. I think this is absolutely clear. We were very much aware that this is not something that ItaCa can solve for the large spectrum of category theory. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that we have failed. And it's also very important to acknowledge that this is a gigantic problem, so that we can ask the question, what can we do very practically about it? And I think it would be interesting to have meetings about it and try to strategize in order to maximize the result in this direction. I think that there can be things that we can do, and of course we have to be realistic and understand that we are doomed to very scarce result. But some result is better than nothing, and it's definitely something we should aim at. Another thing we failed at was writing the book of ItaCa. At some point, we had the idea of writing a manual in Italian, some textbook introduction to category theory. This is something that some people have worked on, that we have quite some pages that have been written by Fosco and other people in our group, and this project is currently staled, and it's a question whether we want to invest more time or not on it. But for the moment, it's something that we haven't succeeded in. And then the last thing I want to complain about is that while I was preparing these slides, I could not find many pictures. And so we should have a gallery section in our website where we have many more pictures. And in this way, we can show that the community is very much alive, and it would be nice to have more pictures. And then I would like to close my presentation with some questions that I have for you. And my first question is, what is our place in the general discourse of the category theory community? Now, this question, in my opinion, has two meanings. The first one is, are we asking ourselves what is the position of category theory in the mathematical community? I think the answer is no. The majority of us are not asking this question, and I think this is a problem. And so, in my opinion, we should ask this question. And whatever is the answer to this question that each of us presents, the question is, what do we want ItaCa to be with respect to the answer that we find for this question? So say that we believe that category theory has lost centrality in the broad landscape of mathematics, then what can ItaCa do in order to change that? And how should we tell the community that this is happening? And how can we convince the community to do something in this direction? Uh, then another question is, what is the future of Italian category theory? And this is a much more inward question, and it is connected to the initial itemize that I presented when I talked about why ItaCa was born. And I think this question means many things. The first one is, how can we make category theory stronger on Italian soil? It means also, how can we help Italian researchers to do more category theory? It means also, how can we get new Italian students to do category theory? And most importantly, it means, can we really make sure that we meet so that there is Italian research on category theory and kind of topics that emerge from our community? At the moment, I would say, for example, that the theory of doctrines is a very Italian topic, but it is not a topic that emerged from ItaCa. And again, I'm not saying that we should produce this as a kind of a checkpoint or thing that we want to get. But if we would produce it, it would show that we are a healthy community, in my opinion. And so I take this as a kind of, I would take it as an evidence of the thing that we are very healthy. Um, Then another question is, how do we grow in numbers? And that means, how can we manage to bring new people inside the community? Until now, the way we bring new people is via invitations. So most of the time, for example, it happened today with Giuseppe. He is new to the community. We didn't know him before. We saw some of his preprints. We found them very interesting, and we decided to invite him. And this is currently one of the main ways we bring people closer to ItaCa. There are others, but it's a question. It is a question to ask: how can we find new ways to bring people? And then the last question is: there are some things that we are very good at doing, I would say. One, for example, is the fest. Another one is the workshop. And we could keep doing these things, or we can ask the question, what else can we do? And what other things do we want to be? And I think that we should ask this question, and we should try to answer it, because maybe we want to be something new and a more political object, as it is evident from my first question. Or maybe we don't want to do that, and we just want to keep doing what we know how to do, and that's a very much a viable possibility. And another,
Packed all of these individuals, but what they left out is that each one of these individuals.
okay. And now the last thing I would like to say is, at the moment, another thing that we don't do is kind of discussing the current trends in category theory and what kind of topics category theory is working on. And this is also something we could start trying and doing, and try to orient the general research of category theory. And this is definitely something we are not doing at the moment, and we could ask, how can we make this happen? And I think on this I will end my presentation, and we can have a chat about what people think of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Well, I'm happy to say that now the audience can answer the speaker's questions. I left a couple of comments in the chat, so probably if I had to kickstart the discussion, I would say that. But I see that Paul has raised a hand, so please, do you want to mute yourself?
Uh, I think am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I mean, ItaCa is a great thing, and Fosco made a good point that you're one of the survivors of online events. I was hoping during the pandemic that this would become a regular thing, and that we would stop having to get on planes to go to conferences and be able to have them. Um, More of them spread over the year. But the other thing I was thinking, I mean, I'm a friend of Italy, right? I'm not Italian. I do understand Italian, sort of. It's not clear to me whether ItaCa is for Italians or for other people who are friends of Italy or are friends of category theory. And a lot of the comments that you made in the last few minutes, Ivan, seem to be about Italians rather than about the international category theory. So, are you for other people or just for yourselves?
Should I answer the question, or maybe someone else wants
Yeah.
to? What is your opinion, Taylor, Paul?
Um. Well, I mean, I would be nice if you would treat me as an honorary Italian. Um. Or for this to be an international category theory event, with an Italian flavour to it.
So I
I mean,
think,
the issues that you talk about getting jobs for Italians, well, the same applies in other countries, and the same actually has applied in the past, where you may imagine that people in the 1970s got jobs very easily, but in fact they didn't. So people like Christian Mickelson, a student of Anders Koch, who's a brilliant categorized, was unable to get a job. Despite he taught courses, marked exams in various Canadian universities without even being paid. Right, so this situation of academics, young academics, being abused by the system is not a new. It's not a new thing, and nor is it peculiar to Italy.
I would like
so
to let other people answer, and then I will give my answer at the
yes.
end.
So to partly answer that, so that's usually how I usually describe these events organized by ItaCa, especially the um, the ItaCa Fest and ItaCa Workshop. I think it's a little bit like a birthday party, as in, when it's my birthday party, you are invited even if it's not your birthday. It's sufficient that it's my birthday for you to come. So in the sense that Italian category theorists organize an event, but that doesn't mean it's just for Italians. It's just that it's organized by a bunch of Italian people. Everybody's welcome. Now this is for the big events. Some things are necessarily a little bit more exclusive. So, for example, the lectures on category theory on YouTube are in Italian. So, somebody needs to be an Italian speaker to understand them. But it's not because we wanted to exclude anybody, it's rather because there was no material in Italian. So, we found that some people in Italy sometimes were even driven off by stuff like advanced math or category theory because it was all in English. And so they already had to make the cognitive effort to translate in case they didn't speak English very well yet, plus the abstraction. So we wanted to bridge that gap. But it was not our intention to exclude anyone. Those are in Italian. This event is in English. The workshops are in English. And so it's mostly done by some people that are either in Italy or from Italy and abroad, like me, or with some connection from Italy.
Um, So I strongly agree with everything that Paolo said, and I would like to make an even stronger statement. The way I perceive ItaCa it is mainly a community of category theorists, and most of them they happen to be Italian, and this is the cultural bond on which the community is built, which means that we all take espresso, and when we chat, we may or may not be a certain kind of person, but at the end of the day, we care about category theory. And I agree with you. The majority of the problems I mentioned are problems that are not Italian at all, and they are just true for the category theory community. So, and everybody that knows me knows that I'm very happy to discuss these problems without an Italian connotation. So, and I would be very happy to help anybody that is a PhD student anywhere in finding permanent positions. So, absolutely, I agree with you, Paul, and ItaCa wants to be helpful 360 degrees. But it is true that the community has a vast majority of people that are Italian, and hence there would be some kind of cultural trait or bias to it. That said, though, for me, you can be the super honorary member. I would love that.
Can I also add a word? Because I agree with both Ivan and Paolo. I would have said exactly the same things. Um, the point I want to make is when it comes to science, when we have to decide who speaks at the fest or at the physical events, nationality plays absolutely no role. We have speakers that come from everywhere, and we accept whoever. And nationality of someone would play no role if I had the means, the financial means, for example, to help a student wherever they come from that got to know me from ItaCa through ItaCa, and they want to work with me, they want to study with me, they want to do mathematics with me. That would be, I think, a great success of ItaCa, regardless of the nationality of this person, of course. And I think I'm speaking for everybody here, for every organizer of the scientific committee, the promoters, whoever is involved in ItaCa thinks the same. On the other hand, we are Italians, and I believe, and now I speak for myself, and whoever wants to agree can agree, and disagree can disagree. There is a thing like Italian mathematics and Italian category theory. The same way there is a French way of doing category theory, there is an Italian way, there is an Anglophone way, there's a German way. These things exist. And it doesn't mean that one nationality is better than the other. I'm not saying any bullshit like that. But there is something like that. And we like, for example, for me, it would be extremely liberating to teach category theory in Italian. And I put so much effort in the course because of this, because people that are English native speakers like downplay the importance of thinking mathematics in their native language. It's so important, and it comes so natural, and we need to defend this possibility. We need to create deliverables to have stuff that people can study in the language they are born thinking in. This is important. And so it's something that I believed had to be defended, had to be done this way. Just to make an example. I'm not.
So we could say an Italian category theorist is a machine that turns very concentrated coffee into very concentrated proofs.
That I agree.
I mean, when you read the scientific production of Betty, this is clearly true.
Yeah, exactly. To be fair, I think the very same thing applies to Australians, but okay, let's not get sidetracked.
I would like to make a comment. I think that what you have on YouTube in Italian, it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, Italian is a beautiful language. It's maybe easier for me to say that because I do understand it, but it has something to do with one question on Ivan's slides, and that's about positioning of Italians inside the mathematical community in Italy. I think it's important to attract new young people who will understand the importance of category theory. And another comment is applied to nations which were mentioned by Fosco, because in the history of category theory, I believe only three nations were picked up as big hubs of category theory: Canada, Italy, and Australia. So look what happened to Canada. Mm, it only exists in traces in Dalhousie. The category theory community in Montreal is dying, actually, you know. So I think that ItaCa is a great prevention of the same fate for Italians. And I must congratulate to all of you who are organizing, especially to Beppe, who born the idea, so that we are sure that with such efforts, and I'm always really enjoying in any way, either talking or listening to the talks, to participate in your events. But I think it's the best way to prevent that a similar destiny happens to Italy. You know, so you have a bright future, and I don't have any doubt that during the time you will crystallize how you can even improve the situation better for any aims that you envisage, you know, in the future. So I would conclude with congratulating to all of you, you know, because I really do enjoy in every single event you organize.
Thank you, Igor. You are always welcome.
Thank you very much, Igor. I really loved your comments. And I think you touched on very important points, which is the health of category theory at international and national level. I also saw Paul made the comment that category theory is very healthy in computer science departments. And this is an interesting comment because A, I'm not sure it's true.
I think
And
it's very
B,
true in the UK. Very, very true.
yes, this I agree. It's very true in the UK. But B, it's definitely something we cannot surrender. Like, this is really not enough. We must
Yeah, and
make category theory healthy in maths department.
yes, and my presence in the scientific arena is a consequence of this. I agree, but then at the same time, I don't think this is a situation that can last forever on its own. We have to fight over this. And
Yeah, when I said that I am not sure I agree, I think there is evidence that Paul is right. There are many more category theorists in computer science department, but I would say that the kind of category theory that is happening in computer science department sometimes, I mean, sometimes these people have just such a kind of interest, which is absolutely great, but sometimes they have to redirect their interests precisely because they are in computer science department. And so in that case, especially if you are interested in more mathematical category theory and you have to redirect your interests, then this is not satisfying. So that's the sense in which I said, I'm not sure it's healthier. Of course, there is more category theory, but is it in a healthy state? This depends from case to case, I think. Of course, in the case of Marcello Fiore, it's the healthiest category theory ever. In the case of Power, it's the healthiest category theory ever. But in some other cases, maybe that's not as true in computer science department. Uh, so, and as a general statement, I think that category theory, this is the first stage on which I have the chance to say it, has lost centrality in mathematics, in the mathematical discourse. Now, let me be more precise with that. The category theory community has lost centrality. It is true that category theory is more used by mathematicians, but the community that revolves around the CT has lost centrality, has lost prestige, and has lost relevance. And I think this is something we should work on. And of course, as a member of ItaCa, it's a question what can ItaCa do for that? But also as a member of the category theory community, we just we also should work on that. But there isn't a stage where I can make this statement for the category theory community. There's only a stage where I can make this statement for the ItaCa community. So that's why I make it here.
I wanted to add a single thought on this healthier in computer science departments. It's also related to this discourse about the centrality of category theory in the mathematical discourse. I honestly don't know if is category theory central to the mathematical discourse when you regard mathematics as a whole. If assuming there is such a thing, I think it's not so obvious. And then as a consequence, I guess we category theorists always have this problem of explaining to people why we do the things we do. And what is the application, what is the intended inspiration for studying a given problem. In the past, probably, like thinking about the giants of the past, it was a little bit easier to answer that question because category theory was used for algebraic topology, algebraic geometry, the big giants of pure mathematics. Now it's a bit more complex to like at the same time. It's easier because more people use category theory, and it's easier in computer science because it's probably easier to have that conversation. Why do you study this problem? Well, there is this piece of metal I want to understand the behavior of, but like I don't know what is the centrality of category theory in the mathematical discourse you talk about? Because if I had to motivate it for computer science, the little part that I have seen in the last few years, I think there it's easier to motivate what you're doing. In mathematics, you can study number theory or PDEs or whatnot. Yes, go.
When I spoke of centrality, I didn't mean that before it was central. I meant that before it was more central, which are completely different topics, right? I think that category theory is a marginal topic. Nobody cares as a general statement of category theory. And maybe this is not even a problem. But there was a time, in my opinion, in which the topic had a different, if you want prestige, and you can measure prestige by checking the journals on which we were publishing. Mordijk had publications on compositio in the 90s, and there were publications in very prestigious journals, and then we have lost access to these journals with the time, and so that means that the topic is becoming less prestigious. Many people might criticize this way of measuring prestige, but I think they don't understand that this is exactly how you survive from a biological point of view, and this is very important at the end of the day to survive as a topic. So
I agree.
Because that's the way you get people inside the topic, because the empty set is empty, guys. Just saying. So I think that we have lost, maybe I should rephrase my statement. We were never central and we will never be central, and maybe we shouldn't be central, but I think we should aim at being at climbing back the ladders of prestige, because that's quite important both for our survivor but also for because I think what we do is relevant. Now we can ask the question, I think it's very important to ask the question, why did this happen? And the reason I think is everyone, if one thinks about it, it is clear. Many people were very anti-politically minded, and they did not care about us staying in prestigious editorial board and stuff like that. And this led to us being less and less represented on relevant boards. And guess what? Eventually, you are brushed away. Impressive, right? So what I think it's very important that this is something we talk about, and somehow we try to understand how we can A, make our journals more prestigious, and B, we get people of our community to prestigious editorial boards.
Can
I
I
think
play?
go.
No, go, Paul. Go.
No, I just wanted to say that I think that category theory, maybe even from its early start, right? You all know stories about Lovere or MacLean and so on. We are a community that was always characterized by we prefer to be right than to be understood or than to compromise with other people. We tend to be like that. Um, so I think ideas like ItaCa are exactly a way out of this problem because like finally focusing on some social aspect on building a community is the reason why it's one of the big reasons I think why category theory is growing. We're not yet back to the old age, but at least for young people now everybody knows what is category theory. Everybody's like a little bit intrigued, and I think this is due to stuff like Ithaca, to stuff like the ACT school, to stuff like the Zulip category theory server. All these like social initiatives which are not quite math, but on which a lot of math is born. I think the perfect example is Kelly. Kelly basically founded what today we call Australian category theory. Australian category theory is still very big, very alive today, and very well respected within our community. How many of us know an actual result by Kelly, as opposed to say Lovere or MacLean, right? But they left a legacy in terms of getting something started. So I think with things like Ithaca, we are we are already I don't know in a very good direction. Sorry, my bell is ringing. I'll be right back.
I transformed my comment in a message on the chat, but I guess I can repeat it. Ivan, can it be that this situation is just a consequence of the specialization phenomenon that happens with every discipline? Like in the beginning, category theory, when it was way younger, and mathematics as a whole was almost a century younger, there was essentially no other choice than to speak to a more generalist public because the community of category theory wasn't even existing. Now, instead, category theory is a thing that has problem of its own. And so you can, and we can debate whether this is a good or a bad thing in terms of representation and in terms of what people think of what we do, because some people clearly believe that category theory is purely self-referential. But we are in a situation that we were not before, or that we were probably less into 50, 70 years ago, when category theory was a baby or a newborn, and there wasn't even the thing in as a concept to study problems that are purely inside category theory, and that by construction become a little bit self-referential.
So I strongly agree with this statement. To some extent, I think that what happened is a natural process. But I also think that natural process can be contained, and if you want, dynamical systems can go can spiral in directions that are actually not that healthy. And by that I mean that our community, I mean, of course, every community at some point will close in itself, especially because, as you say, there is this process of specialization. The question is, how much do you do it, and how much from time to time you look outside?
Yeah.
And I think that the community should look as much as possible outside. Our community should look as much as possible outside and should not be too proud in our identity and our own problems. And I
Yes.
think that sometimes some of us have looked too much inside the community and too little outside. This is especially bad because of the very nature of category theory, which is by definition a topic that learns from the others and brings
Yeah.
in. And so,
Yes.
in this specific sense, yes, I do agree with you, but I think awareness that we have this problem
Yes.
is a self-medication at the end of the day, because we should not forget that we are people that look at other topics, we learn from other topics and bring in. And if we keep doing that, we will be just healthier and more people will understand what we talk about because we actually talk about them.
Yes, I would love to know from other people, because I don't know how it works in other countries, but I think we all agree here that Italy has a very long tradition of research groups being harshly tribal. You can only study the problem that our ancestors have devised and polished, and you can only make it shine. And if you want to do something slightly different than differential equations in positive characteristic, then you should absolutely reassess your taste in mathematics, and you should just do penance. So how does it? Because I grew up in such an environment, and I fight it as much as I can.
That's not a problem with Italy. That's a problem with pure mathematics departments. That the agenda was set in the 1950s. I think probably by the Bourbaki generation, right? And that only the problems that they were interested in at that time, and the problems and the methods at that time, was one allowed to study in mathematics. Now,
Yeah.
there was some comment about talking to a more general audience. Those of us who were essentially expelled from pure mathematics for the crime of being interested in a topic which was applied in computer science, right, have been forced or were forced to talk to a more general audience who didn't understand the mathematics that we'd learned, that we'd been brought up with, or the category theory we'd been brought up with. And I felt for a long time as an exile from mathematics. And it's also turned me into a heretic. I pretty much every time I post on Math Overflow, I get downvoted because I don't have the correct opinions. But the positive side of that is that people who are doing category theory in computer science departments have much more intellectual freedom. They can apply their subjects to other topics which are not really, frankly, not really computer science, but can be mathematics. So there are people who are doing probability, for example, with category theory. We have more liberty. The reason why category theory is growing is because people are applying it to other subjects to which it had never been applied before. And actually, if there's a problem in category theory, it's in the topics in which category theory had been used a long time ago. We've had last two category theory international conferences. The first day has been devoted to categorical algebra, which I'm sure is a perfectly valid subject in itself, but it's not, it's old stuff. It's for a small part of the category theory community. Whereas what the categories, I don't understand the concentration on Italy in this discussion, because everything you say about Italy applies to other countries as well. But what we should be doing in category theory we have techniques that are applicable to many mathematical disciplines, and that's the thing that should be emphasized in the International Category Theory Conference. Otherwise, it will just break up. It's in computer science we have scores of these competitive conferences with narrower and narrower focus, where people don't have they get 20-minute talks. They don't have an opportunity to have a genuine exchange of ideas amongst communities. And I think we need to think about that in category theory and preserve and develop the fact that we have um, a wide ranging community, that category theory is not a particular mathematical topic, but a way of doing mathematics.
I totally agree. Yes. Nicola, tell us.
With that, and I think would be super important to um, well, the fact that the community should be more linked with other part of mathematics, because also, I mean, it happens quite frequently to me to see colleagues working with something, and if they knew that something is a functor, that it would be easier for them, you know. But I also think, and I wanted to make a remark about that, I mean, in order to do that, you have to have access during your study to category theory. I mean, for me, that was not that much the case. I mean, was in my university in undergrad level, I couldn't find that. So yeah, so it's important the work that ItaCa is doing for making accessible in to undergrad students in Italy, at least where the community is concerned.
Yes, I think this
Yes.
is a great point. We must find a way to make our web presence very visible, and kind of we have to make sure people understand that if they are finishing their bachelor and they haven't read the equivalent of basic category theory by Leinster, maybe it's late. Maybe they should do something about it. Maybe they should fill this gap. And if it's their first year of master, maybe they should read Emily Reel's book on category theory. Otherwise, it starts to be late to do mathematics in a modern way. And I think this kind of communication
Yeah.
needs to be there, and so that the people that Google, because all of us were people that were Googling at some point category theory in Italy, and we
Yeah.
know how hard it is to find the right book because there are so many horrible books around, all talking about topos theory in such a whimsical way. And instead, you just have to sit down, take the Emily Reel's book, study from top to bottom, and then move on to the topic that you like the best. And so I think this is something that I mean, we already do it via the course, but we really need to make this work, and we really need to do outreach in this sense, because I mean, there is a long way to go there.
I think I completely agree with Ivan, and I think one way that could help, um, which at least the one way that I find important and which I work on, is to make the NLab more readable. Because the NLab is the first thing that Google returns to you when you look up something that has any categorical name. And if the first thing you read first starts with the infinite dimensional case, maybe has even some, you know, patronizing language, and then the rest is completely nonsensical to a first comer, people will just think that's not relevant. So I think it would be, we already have some I don't know how it happens, some God-given search engine optimization for which the NLab is easy to Google, not as easy as Wikipedia, but it still like comes up first, and not just me, not just to me, like to like that's how I first saw the category theory even years ago. And I feel like we should at least make the start of those pages uh not so scary, because otherwise people are gonna, because otherwise people are gonna be thrown off.
Yes, I agree. Maybe the point I wanted to make is related to this. Like, one thing that I think category theory failed to do as a whole is bringing in people from outside category theory, teaching them a little bit of it, and then letting them use the language together with their sophisticated techniques in, I don't know, partial differential equations, dynamical systems, ergodic theory, probability theory, other engineering. Some people, every now and then, but it's a very slow process and isolated items, come in the community. They have to, kneel in front of the masters and say, I am just a humble newcomer. Please teach me the secret truth. And then they learn something, and some of them, of a little minority, bring home some ideas, but it's happening too slow and in too few instances. Because the problem, look, the way I see the problem is, it's nice to put category theory in other parts of mathematics where there is still none or very little. But it's also an extremely hard problem, because while category theory was growing and becoming more self-aware, mathematics grew super exponentially as well. So the techniques that people use in the mathematics we would like to interact with are become more sophisticated by the day. And we just have a limited amount of time to study that stuff. So we end up categorifying stuff that is too simple, and people coming from somewhere else see what we do and only see like trivial remarks put in the language of category theory, and not the bleeding edge, the cutting edge of the research they do. But on the other hand, it's almost impossible to do it because it takes expertise. It takes someone who knows backwards and front the topic too. So I think this is why people like Paolo are so precious for us, because he comes from a different kind of education, but discovered category theory because it was useful, because it was beautiful, because he needed it and he liked it. And now he's bringing something new to the discourse that only him is doing, because the probability theory that he knows is 100 times more than the one I know. And yet I'm also quite interested in how to do category theory in probability theory. I read a lot, whatever I can as a spare time activity, but we should do it with other things. And yes, go.
I agree with Fosco, and I think I mean, thanks for the compliment, but I think actually I have the same problem rather. So whenever I go to give a talk in a probability department, most of the comments that I receive from people are actually quite positive. However, they all say, "This is great. Thank you for doing this. Sounds promising. Please come back once you can tell us something about the problems we are solving now." Because stuff like the Finetti's theorem is 100 years old. And honestly, they're right? How can I blame them? So
Yeah.
So to most of the people that I've talked to are actually quite receptive of the categorical things, but of course they are busy doing other things. So until we can help them with their stuff, I feel like categorical probability is in a rather good shape. So we are getting there, but definitely there's a lot more work to do. And yes, I agree with Fosco that I will need some of these people to help me out, because I definitely cannot get to their cutting edge alone or with the few other category theorists that are working with me.
I I strongly agree with both of you, and I think both of them are calls to knowledge at the end of the day. You are saying, both Fosco and Paolo, that it is very important that besides being expert in category theory, we are also experts in something else. And of course, that implies that we have to be very good. This is our problem, not theirs problem. So we better be. And second, we have to find collaborators. Maybe there are more experts than us in the other topic. But I think at the end of the day, I take your comments as a call to knowledge, which is a great call. But also, it's we are responsible if we are ignorant and we are just category theorists.
Oh, you're muted.
An example of some homotopy type theory seems to have worked very well from a political point of view. Maybe it was because it was headline started by a homotopy theorist, although frankly, really there were things going on in category theory and higher category theory and at the same time. So how has that been politically a successful thing? What can we learn from what they have achieved? So I gather that that in homotopy theory there are, which is really not my thing, that there are some quite difficult results that have now been achieved using homotopy type theory, compared to what was done using traditional methods.
I think this is a great question. I really love it. And to some extent, a big portion of the achievements was obtained because some people were very politically minded. And in this sense, I have, for example, in mind Steve Audi, that was a great organizer for many conferences centered around the topic. They also were a bit lucky because they had Voivosky. There was an important voice in their community because it was a very recognized voice. And something like this is also happening with Olivia Caramello and Laforgue because he is a very recognized mathematician, right? So they were a tiny bit lucky, and then they had some people that were genius at pivoting that luck, I think. So politics matter. I think this is the first thing we learn. Being politically oriented matters. And then, but okay, this is a triviality, and I already made this point. And then scientifically, I think that yes, they did achieve some results. For example, they did manage to reproduce some by 3 of S4, sorry, by 4 of S3, and results of this kind in synthetic homotopy theory. I'm not sure they got much respect though for achieving these results. And anyway, they did not manage to improve the existence result in homotopy theory. So actually, I think that the trend has dried out a tiny bit precisely because it didn't manage to deliver what they promised in a way. I'm not sure that the outreach was that successful at the end of the day. But definitely for the time that it lasted, it was great, I would say.
Maybe I can mention instead an example of something that we can take as an inspiration, and it comes from category theory and from a category theorist who managed to create a line of research that has little to do with category theory, intersects category theory, but it's not category theory, and the people doing it were not category theorists. So the people know me know that I love the theory of combinatorial species that Joyal invented to do combinatorics with category theory. But I like not only the mathematics, I think it's a very instructive piece of history from the point of view of sociology, because Joyal inadvertently created a community of people who were not category theorists, published in journals that are the Annals of Combinatorics, the prestigious venues about combinatorics, about discrete mathematics. They were never, these people made themselves a career out of ideas that a category theorist put on the like published. And we're not talking about few papers, and we're not talking about a few people, although the community now didn't survive that boom, but this is another sociological point. There are trends, and then many of the trends die. But these people managed to do something with category theory, digested the bare minimum of terminology. They understood what Joyal was saying, and then used those ideas to do combinatorics without worrying a lot about the categorical finesse, the functoriality, the universal properties. They just wanted to compute something, and it was a very elegant, very, very useful way to bookkeep what they wanted to understand. And they had non-trivial problems. They had cutting-edge problems in mind. They wanted to do something that was geared towards combinatorics. So that's the history, although it didn't survive forever, but that's a history of a success. Some people outside category theory took ideas from category theory to do something which is not category theory better than without it.